Happy National Werewolf Day, everybody! I'll bet you didn't even know that holiday existed, but now that you do, write it down. I'm doing my part to spread awareness, so maybe one day it will be a nationally recognized holiday, and we'll all get the day off. I've been obsessed with werewolves since I was a kid. Seriously, it's a real problem. I've got werewolf art all over my house, werewolf bookends on my shelves, werewolf stickers on my laptop. You could say I'm addicted to werewolves, and I know I'm not alone. Werewolves have existed in myth and legend for a long time. So today I thought it'd be fun to go over some of the earliest werewolf myths and kind of explore why the werewolf has stuck around for as long as it has. I know there is a subset of people who will say that it's because werewolves are in fact real and still stalk our woods today, but I think that we can all collectively ignore them. Alright, so let's get into it. The very first written account of a werewolf comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, all the way back from the 3rd millennium BC. Originally translated from clay tablets, it recounts the story of Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, in a cycle of poems. At one point, Gilgamesh is approached by the goddess Ishtar, who wishes to take him as her lover and husband. Gilgamesh rejects her, citing her poor treatment of her past lovers as his reason. In one example, he brings up a shepherd she loved, only to grow bored of him and turn him into a wolf, dooming him to be chased away by his own herd boys and tormented by his own hounds. So yeah, I can kinda see why Gilgamesh turns her down. It could be argued that this first account doesn't really count as a werewolf in the same way that we think of them today, but just on the raw definition of a werewolf being someone who turns from man to wolf, I'd say it counts. There is, however, a much better known account of an early werewolf, and it's from his name that we actually get the words lycanthrope and lycanthropy. I'm talking, of course, about King Lycaon of Arcadia from Greek and Roman mythology. As with most myths, there have been multiple different versions told over time, so depending on which one you're reading, things are going to look a little different. But the most common version of the story seems to be that Lycaon doubted Zeus's all-knowing abilities and set out to test them. So when he had the god at his table, he served him a plate of human flesh. Zeus, of course, realized this immediately, and as punishment transformed Lycaon, and in some versions of the myth, all of Lycaon's sons into wolves, which then ravaged the countryside. Because that makes sense, right? I know you've been causing harm, so as punishment, I'm going to turn you into a creature that will cause even more harm. Zeus really was a dick. But Lycaon actually does fit better with the idea of a modern werewolf than the shepherd from the Epic of Gilgamesh, because again, depending on the version that you read, Zeus also put a clause on his curse that meant it wasn't permanent, and that Lycaon could return to his human form if he went without tasting human flesh for a period of 9 years. Although whether or not he actually managed this isn't made clear. These are the earliest known accounts of werewolves in mythology, although it wouldn't surprise me if such creatures had actually been around a lot longer, passed down by word of mouth before writing ever became a thing. But that still raises the question of why. What is it about the werewolf that's made it stick around until present day? Well, for starters, I think that we tend to forget nowadays just what a big threat wolves actually pose to humans for centuries. Today we sit in our cushy houses with big cities around us, and we don't really think about how many people succumb to wolf attacks on a day-to-day basis, back when people still had to wander into the woods to get food and water for their families. That said, I think there is a part of us that remembers. That's why I, a person with absolutely no belief in the supernatural, will look into the dark woods and still have a chill run down my spine. Because somewhere deep down, I know that that's where many of my ancestors met their end. Not by monsters, but by apex predators. Ones that still exist and are still very much capable of overpowering a human being should they feel the need. The werewolf being a merging of both man and wolf is also interesting. This might sound cliche, but everyone has a dark side to them. Everybody's got an id, thoughts and feelings that don't fit in with polite society. And I think the werewolf is very much a part of that, combining the wild, untamed animal with the rational man. There could also be something there about wanting to reclaim power over the wild and the unknown. Instead of fearing it by becoming a werewolf, the man is now the thing to be feared. Obviously, there's a ton more to it than that. As long as they've been around, werewolves have come to symbolize all sorts of things and are wide open to interpretation by anyone. In my review of the movie Howl, I talked about how I often view them as symbolic of masculinity or the patriarchy, given how few female werewolves there are. That's why I'll definitely be revisiting this topic and exploring more werewolf myths and legends throughout time. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, feel free to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it. Also, be sure and leave a like, and if you have any suggestions for werewolf myths I should cover, leave them in the comments down below. Also, don't even feel like you have to limit yourselves to werewolves. If there are any other monsters I should talk about, feel free to tell me. Because when it comes to the dark, twisted, and spooky, I am 100% on board. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay brilliant, and I will see you in the next one.